Hi, Seema.
Hello, how are
How are
you?
you? You are
It's
looking
good to
so
see
good. I
you
haven't
after
seen
so
you
long.
so long. I was just thinking about this. The last time we met, there was no pandemic, nothing. It was like a normal coffee in Khan
I
market.
know, wasn't it
And
amazing?
and
I miss
what
those
what a
days when you
lifetime.
poodle out.
What a lifetime we've lived since then. Who would have
I
thought,
know.
yeah?
It's been a while, no?
It's
It's
been
what,
a
3 years
while.
since or 3 years since you
Yeah,
moved to Abu Dhabi?
yeah. It's been, yeah, almost. I mean, pretty much just before, some months before. But I think we can hopefully now, after this next wave goes, and there's a downtime, we will hopefully catch up again.
I don't know. As the cases are rising again,
They are,
I've
they
had
are.
people in my family going down with COVID all over again, which
I
is a
have my
bit of a
daughter in the other room
oh
who's
my
just joined
God.
from the other room. Yes. So
Oh, poor
we have
thing.
just, we're
Is
all
it,
been
is it,
isolating.
I hope it's not a very, I hope it's a mild case.
It's a more like a really bad viral for now, but I think what everybody has told me is that it's going to take the 2, 3 days that it takes.
Mm.
And luckily, the fever has been under control, so it's a good thing. And she's
And you're okay
vaccinated, which is,
now?
yeah, I've just double tested again, and you mentally keep clearing your throat. So she's laughing,
Oh
she's watching.
gosh.
She says, "I will watch you. I have nothing better to do." But yes, so yeah, I mean, we've been isolating in different rooms, and
Yeah.
which is why I look a little washed out because
No, you
I don't
don't.
have access to half my
I
things,
have
you know. But
a
he was
nice brown.
lovely as usual. No, it
Nice.
was, I enjoyed it. My apologies, Seema, because this conversation was long overdue, and
Mhm.
something or the other has, during COVID, they say, oh God, time slowed down. But in a sense, I don't also know where the time has gone. I mean,
Yeah,
we think we haven't done much, and yet it's just been on this roll of just taking one day at a time, which has gone,
that's true.
God knows where, right? But
That's
it was
very
it was an enjoyable book. I'm convinced that there's another one coming after this.
true. I'm going to take a break, you know. I'm working on a spy novel which I had given
Oh,
up halfway.
nice.
So I've gone back to it. So I'll give Asha Devi a bit of a break, go back and see her in a few years' time and see how she's doing.
Oh, it was yeah, but I mean, are you going to? We had this conversation as well. Are you going to push for the OTT platforms now?
I mean, I've had people kind of talk to me, and I'm in touch with one agency which has kind of given it out to various people, and some of them have expressed some interest in it. So we're just doing meetings, but it's at a very preliminary stage. So, I mean, I don't really want to get into it too much at the moment. Don't want to jinx it. So
Don't want
I'm
to
going.
jinx it. It doesn't take much to jinx it these days. You have
I
to also be
know.
very politically correct, right? To get anything going.
Yeah, but the good thing, I mean, I think good or bad, I don't know, but the convenient thing is that the book is not based in current politics, not in the
Yeah.
current political situation. It's set in like the distant future. So it's not kind of a political hot potato in that sense. So hopefully that should help.
Because you don't actually know what is going to rub who the wrong way these days, right?
Yeah, very true, very true. It's a strange time to be through, no?
It is. So what was it first? And I want to ask you that a little bit later about the fact that, you started from Cal to now, that journey of a veteran journalist. But before that, what has the experience been of releasing the book, between a pandemic? I mean, I think you did manage to get some book signings, or did you not?
It's quite funny you say that because when I was writing the book, and it was written like long before, but I kind of
Yeah.
sat on it. I told Penguin I want to do it now because it's a pandemic, and I want to do it when I can actually do live events and I can meet people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I finally sent it to them when the caseloads were down, and lo and behold, the moment the book came out, the Omicron wave hit. So it was kind of, how it is. So we did, I mean, I did most of my interviews with Zoom, even the TV interviews that I did, or the, uh, you know, media that I did for newspapers and stuff was all done virtually. But I did manage to go to a few bookshops and do a few signings with everybody wearing N95s and, posing for pictures with masks on. But it was still better than nothing, because it's always
No.
nice to meet your readers face to face and, to be able to interact with them. But the good thing was that we managed to do the Jaipur Literary Festival, which was last month, and that was a great event. It was like 3 days in Jaipur, and and this time there was a lot of, because they had an entry fee. It was only the very dedicated book lovers who actually came to the book fair. It wasn't like a mela of the earlier years, so there was less of a breed and more of people who were into books. So that was a great time because you actually could meet other authors, you could chat, you could hang out, you could discuss, and it felt like life was coming back, limping back to normalcy. And now I'm afraid that the numbers are up again, so who knows?
Yeah, there's a little bit of sifting of and realignments during this time, hasn't it been? Whether it is that lack of mela, as you just said, on the
Yeah.
at the fest, or its relationships, or how we tackle things, or how we look at things. No.
Absolutely, it's changed a hell of a lot. But maybe for the better, maybe we kind of value what we have more now because we've been deprived for so long sitting in our homes and only interacting with people via screens like we are doing now. But we've just kind of become a little more appreciative of the on ground events that we do manage to do. So I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, no, but I'm grateful. At least it's allowing me to have these conversations and to keep these conversations going from very far away. But coming back to your book, Seema, a political thriller. What has been the how has it been received? It's a fascinating book for somebody like us. In terms of, we're looking to pinpoint who we know where the, what who stands for this or the characters, and for the layman, how do they relate to a book like that?
In India, I think everybody is obsessed with politics. Everybody is following the news, everybody is watching channels in the evening, everybody is on Twitter with an opinion of their own, everybody is getting into fights on family WhatsApp groups about A, B, C, and D on the political front. So I think we are a very political society, very politically conscious society. And the thing about my, even though it's marketed as a political thriller, it's also about families. It's also about the family dynamic of the politicians that are featured. It's also about a young girl trying to make her way in the world. It's also about the relationships she develops. And in the case of the new book, Madam Prime Minister, it's also about her falling in love. So it's not just about politics, it's about human emotions. There is a lot of character development. There's a lot of interfamilial dynamics that are into. So even if you have zero interest in politics, even if you can't tell Rahul Gandhi apart from, I don't know, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, you will still find the book interesting to.
It's true, but it's also I think not just politics. We're also equally the people generally are equally obsessed with media. At least everybody thinks that they are either they are willing to bash whoever they want to bash, or secondly, that they are as good as any journalist out there. I feel like everybody now thinks they can just get onto a live and they think they're the media. But it was lovely, the kind of, you've given a look at the Indian media space without allowing anybody to really point fingers at you. Very smartly done.
Thank you. Thank you. I think all my angst at what the media is turning into has been condensed into the two books, first with Racecourse Road and then with Manchester. Because, I mean, you've been part of television media when you were in India, and you can see how it's changed, how it's not anymore about the news. It's just about opinion television. It's just about, uh, a lot of loud opinion making. It's almost like talk radio rather than television now,
Yeah.
the way it works. And there's, I mean, there's always a kind of an agenda driven media these days, which is quite sad because we never had that when we were starting out in journalism, and we certainly didn't do that when we were in the field reporting and things. And I think all that frustration I have felt over many months and years of watching what the nightly news channels have become spilled over in the book. And I kind of managed to channel it into this rivalry between these two anchors in the book, which one is Gaurav Agnihotri and the other is Manisha Patel. I'm sorry, I just need some water.
No, no, please do. I'm wondering how to turn off the comments in the meantime. Someone's asked me to, but I have absolutely no idea how to turn off the comments.
I
Maybe I'll
have
learn
no
about this next time. Next time. The recording will be neat and clean, so
idea.
um,
Okay, don't worry about it.
but I should figure this one out
I
for next time.
2 years, so I've forgotten how to do it. Thank God you got me on.
Oh, really? Oh my God. See, like I said, we time went very slowly, and yet we don't know what we did in the last 2 years, in a sense. But yeah, so um,
Yeah,
talking
about
about the
the
two journalists.
media thing. So I think between this kind of battle of ratings between Manisha Patel and Agnihotri is actually a good way of getting the dynamics of the whole media game, the way it's played these days, into the book, and it becomes a part of the plot, and it's kind of part of it. So I thought it made sense to do that, and I'm glad that most people have reacted very favorably to it.
Well, I was actually loving it. And I actually thought maybe we should have brought the TRP scam into it as well at the end of it, maybe in the next one.
Next one.
But but it's also interesting the way you've molded real events into a fictional story. That art of, the Prime Minister Modi is somebody who's already in the past, or events that have shaped India in recent times have all been intertwined into this narrative very beautifully, Seema.
Thank
It was
you.
an aspect I really enjoyed.
Thank you so much, Josa. That means a lot. Thank you.
No, and I thought actually that was a pretty original way of dealing with things, because sometimes it's a way of writing that just keeps you more gripped, because everybody, like you said, is so interested in what's really going on. And so I think you got the best of both worlds, in a sense that you got a thriller out of it, and yet you kept it very contemporary without allowing anybody to file a suit against you.
And no demonstrations outside the.
And no demonstrations outside your house. But
So
the
so
other
which
thing is, yeah,
favorite
sorry,
Let me ask you. Let me turn the
sorry,
table, ask you a few questions.
ask away.
What is your favorite character in the book?
Alok Rai.
Oh,
Only because I'm like, oh my God, I think we could do with somebody like this to shake up the
things up.
politics.
Yes.
Where are these people? Where are these people in real
Not
life,
in
Seema?
real life. Not in real life.
So it was interesting. Although, I mean, I have to say I liked Asha Devi as well. The guts of keep going. Your pictures are released, which was of course in your last book. That's how it ended. But the fact that the kind of media scrutiny that is today, it makes it very tough for a person to survive, and unless and until they're made of steel, in a sense, because the kind of spotlight, and I say this to like my children, do you want to really get into social media, because you don't know the kind of spotlight that comes in, and it's very harmful, and it's 24/7. So I think, given that ability to keep going, to me, was very fascinating. I think it was a good character, because some would say it's a flaw, but I think in this environment, it was social media life. I think it's the only character to have, to keep, as you
Yeah,
mentioned somewhere, to keep falling and to keep getting up and to keep moving. I think that's the wonderful character.
I agree that social media scrutiny is amazing. I mean, even for people like you and me, who are not
Yeah,
exactly the most famous people in India or on the social media,
no, me, that's me. You, no, you're there, you're there.
but the moment you express an opinion, the moment you
Yeah.
say anything, I mean, it could even be, that, oh, I got this lot of mangoes today and they were really good. And I really like Alfonso's. And there'll be 35 people telling you, no, Langra is better and Hammam is better. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what opinion you have, leave alone politics. You just have to voice an opinion, and people are all over you, trying to tell you why you're wrong. So it's actually a very depressing state of affairs. In fact, of late, I'm really not that active on Twitter. I spend more time on Instagram these days, and even on Twitter, I now have a new rule. that earlier I used to be a little, kind of go with the flow. But now the moment somebody says something rude to me, I don't even respond, I just block them. I mean, I would not take that kind of attitude from somebody in real life. So why would I allow you on my timeline to come and say rude things to me? And then of course you have their friends saying, what is this? Don't you believe in freedom of speech? Doesn't that person have a right to say it? Well, of course he has the right to say it, but I have a right not to listen to it. So it works both ways. So I
No,
think
you're right.
I
Yeah.
I managed to clean up my timeline to an extent by going on this blocking spree. And I think that's the only way to survive on social media now. You really can't engage with the kind of bile that there is out there. It's quite sad.
And and like you said, it's not just political. You can just have an opinion on anything, and somebody will just come and trash you down because, hey, it's not red, it's pink today. I mean, it's
Yeah.
as simple as that, right?
I mean, why do you like mangoes? Well, what's wrong with apples? I mean, it's at
Yeah,
that level of, idiocy. So it's no point even engaging with it. I mean, it's possible to have a proper conversation about issues or whatever, but you can only do it with a very small circle of people who you know, probably offline as well. You can't really do it with people online. It just doesn't work any longer. It's sad because it never used to be like that, but it's just become really, really awful. It's
I do
kind of.
try and take the like a day off, completely off all kinds of social media for, like, my detox day. But I do some days just go off completely because I think there's just so much more to do, and
No,
so many more books to read.
I'm actually a bit of a news junkie, so I find it hard to stay off Twitter because
Yeah,
I'm constantly
yes,
scrolling to see what's happening, kind of thing. But I'm more of a lurker these days. I don't post that much. I
the
post like
stalker.
maybe once a week or twice a week or something when I really feel strongly about stuff. But other than that, I just lurk around and see what everybody else is saying. But Instagram, I think, is a far more friendly medium. In terms of people are polite. There's not that much of angst on.
No, there isn't. I think that, on the other side, I think people are trying to show a really different life. So I don't know what the balance is, right? I mean, you're extra happy and extra cheerful some days on Instagram, but I think that's much better than the angst and the anger and the abuse and the trolling on Twitter any day, right?
On Instagram, and nobody's life is as nasty as it's portrayed on Twitter. So I think lies some.
So,
But
what I do enjoy, sorry, I'm going to interrupt, and this is a thought that just come into my mind, is your columns. The, co- the fact that they relate so much to, even if it's about the mango, right? I mean, the fact that they relate so easily to the common reader, I think that's a wonderful knack, that's a wonderful art, and the consistency to keep coming up with that kind of stuff. What does it take, Seema?
oh, gosh, that's a huge question. I don't know. I think I've been doing this column for nearly 20 years now, so it's kind of
Yeah,
become almost a part of my life. Thinking of column ideas and things. I think the important thing is to just write about things that are meaningful to you. And if they are meaningful to you, you always strike a chord with your readers. Because over the years, you've developed this sort of a symbiotic relationship with people who read your column. They know where you're coming from, and you know the kind of things they like to read. And in fact, what I find is these days, it's kind of harder for me to think of an idea than it is to actually write it. I may spend 2 3 days just wondering what to write about, but actually sitting down and writing it doesn't take that much time because I kind of know what to say by then. And over the years, you developed a voice for your column, so you know the voice you're going to use. So I think, if you have that kind of authentic voice, if you say what you really feel, what's really in your heart, you talk about things that really interest you, I think you will strike a chord with your readers, or at least some of them. Or maybe I'm just
yeah.
lucky. I don't know.
No, you do. No, you do. Absolutely. I mean, there's, like I said, that it's also the fact that there's that consistency in your columns, because the very fact to have to sit and week after week or 2 weeks after 2 weeks, whatever, you have to sit and come up with a new one and try and not sound like the last one is also an art. And for 20 years, I used to say this to my father, in fact. I used to tell him, I said, I don't know how you sit every morning, morning after morning, and keep writing. He said, darling, I've been doing it for 50 years. I
Yeah,
was like, hi, yes, doffing the
he's
hat.
been
What else can I
doing
do?
it a very long time.
Yeah,
And
he's
doing
been doing it.
column is tough because the issues don't really change. So every week to think of a different angle is really, really tough.
Yeah, it's hard. But how do you feel a little bit nostalgic remembering, the time that you started from Calcutta, Kolkata, or to the times that we've reached now?
Oh, it's funny you say that because I recently went back to Calcutta for the Kolkata Literary Meet, where I was talking about my book, of course. And I went back with my husband, whose book was also featured in the Kolkata Literary Meet. And we actually met in Calcutta. So it was
Yeah,
actually a special time for us to go back, and I mean, all the memories come back. You drive by Victoria Memorial. I mean, it used to
yeah,
be right next to my college, so we used to spend many afternoons bunking classes and going off and wandering around the grounds of Victoria Memorial. So it was a very nostalgic time. I ended up eating puchkas at every meal because it's the taste of Calcutta to me. So I used to keep ordering puchkas every single time I was there. But I mean, it was a wonderful kind of walk down memory lane. But I'm not a great one for nostalgia. I kind of live in the moment, so it's not like when I'm sitting in Delhi, I'm thinking about those were the days and that kind of thing.
yeah,
I'm not. I kind of live for the moment. So of course, when you go back, the memories do come back. You do think
yeah,
back to your college days. You meet old friends. You bump into people you haven't seen in 20 years, and you think, oh my God, how old have they gotten? And then the next moment you
realize.
think, and next minute you think they're probably thinking the same thing about me. So
Yeah,
it's funny.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny.
I saw this. I remember going for my boarding school reunion and then thinking, oh my
Mm.
God, the guys have really become old. And then I'm like, oh my God, but there are guys in my own batch. What am I thinking, right? So yeah, it's funny, but how
Realize
we
how old
age or how we.
you've had years to get used to the new you. It's a very gradual
Yeah,
process. It's not like one day you wake up and look in the mirror and you're 20 years older and 20 kilos
yeah,
fatter. So, but when you see other people, that's when you
yeah.
realize that the
Oh my
aging process
God.
you as well is very
Yeah,
much so.
but and I think that I don't know whether you think like that. Sometimes during this, lockdown or sitting, I would think, oh my God, I think I've aged a little bit more sitting inside, just not going out. Or have
I'm
I
sorry,
start?
I refuse to accept that I've aged 2 years because I haven't used those years at all. So I'm not adding
Yeah,
them to okay, they're being subtracted. It's when I use a year that I'm going to add it to my age. That's what I feel.
that is the best way to do it, and that is how I will uh, have these conversations with my husband, who's always telling me you're pretending to be younger than you are. So, so
I
that's going to
think you
him.
look very young, actually. That's okay.
Yeah.
We are
We are
fine.
we are fine, right? We are fine. We'll
We
do
are models for
what
body positivity and image positivity.
positivity in the times
Yes.
of COVID. But I'm coming back to the book, and I just remembered something from the book. So,
Mhm.
have a lot of people asked you that the family, the Asha Devi, and the siblings are like the Gandhis in a sense, or the fact
Yeah.
that it even relates to the fact that the father was assassinated? All of that must have been like a question that came your way, right?
Yeah, I did come my way, but you read the book, they're nothing like the
Yeah,
Gandhis.
yeah,
First of all, it's step family, so the dynamics are like completely different. The two brothers are from the first wife, the daughter who becomes prime minister is from the second wife. So there's a lot of resentment and bitterness and awkward feelings between the two sides of the family. Whereas anybody who knows Rahul and Priyanka knows that they're really, really close. There is
yeah,
no sibling rivalry there. They're like completely devoted to each other. So in fact, this family, the Asha Devi family, couldn't be more different from the Gandhis. There is an assassination, and you're right that Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, but then so was Indira Gandhi. I mean, if you're going to go back, and
yeah,
start taking parallels from that, the assassination of the prime minister, which is how Racecourse Road started, was for me, just a starting point for a book. Because if you want to show like a kind of battle in a family for power and the jostling and all of that, then you need some kind of tipping points, and the tipping point has to be that the father is not on the scene. So the only way to do that is actually eliminate him. So which is why there's an assassination, not because the book is based on Rajiv Gandhi or any of that.
How different is it to write non-fiction versus fiction? Do you, when
No,
you're writing, say, your
I actually
columns?
have, I have written a non-fiction book. In fact, the first book I wrote, it was a good maybe 20 years ago. I wrote a book called Woman on Top, which was like a guide for women who were entering the workplace with tips on interviews and stuff like that. And frankly, that kind of book is much easier to write because it's almost like journalism. It's like, putting your thoughts together. You can treat each chapter like a standalone article and have a theme running through and put it together in a way. So it's very much a very journalistic enterprise. But writing fiction is very, very different. And for me, at least, it's much harder because it involves your imagination. You have to think up scenarios. You have to develop characters. You have to give each one a distinctive voice. You have to think of dialogue. You have to make it witty. You have to make sure the plot is moving along at a good enough pace. You have to make sure that your characters are not static, that they're developing, that they're going towards something. You have to make sure that there is a midpoint at which there is, some kind of action. You have to resolve that action and make sure it all comes together in the end, in the climax. All your various threads that you've left throughout the plot have to be brought together at the end.
Yeah.
So it's a far more complicated enterprise, at least for me. And honestly speaking, there are times when, in the middle of the book, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? It's too tough. I should give up. There are times when you do feel like that, but then you just power through and kind of do it.
Mm.
But I'm sure fiction writing comes very naturally to a lot of people and they're very, good at it or whatever. But for me, non-fiction is much, much easier. But fiction is more enjoyable because after you write that book, the kind of achievement you feel and you feel like, wow, I did it. That's a great feeling. But when you're
Cool.
actually writing it, it's not great fun.
So, are you a disciplined writer? Do you actually get up and say, I'm going to sit on the table, do not ask me for anything, I will not move, I will not even get up and cook? As we were saying, you're the
No,
cook of the house.
I actually, I am, well, I don't know if I call myself disciplined, but I certainly have a routine in that I spend my afternoons writing. When lunch is over and everybody's gone off to do their thing and whatever,
Yeah,
because I work from home.
yeah,
So, and I have like those, 4 or 5 hours of actual peace when the staff has gone off and, my husband is not around and it's just me. And I use that period to write. And I think I mean, if I'm traveling, obviously I don't do it, but if I'm at home, I do it. And my aim is always to write about 500 to 700 words. And if it's a good day, maybe I get to 1,000. But if it's a bad day, I stop at 500. And even if the words are not coming, I still sit and do it because I can always come back tomorrow and change it. But I feel like if I stop and I don't write those 500 words, then that magic moment will not happen. I need to do it every
yeah,
day.
yeah. That
That's
powering
how,
through, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because there are days when the words don't come and you feel like, oh my god, it's not working, and all of that. But I think you just have to go through it. You just have to allow yourself to be disappointed, allow yourself to be despondent, and hope that tomorrow's a better day.
of course. Writing is, as a friend of mine was saying the other day, she said it's a very lonely profession. You keep at it on your table or wherever, but it is a very lonely profession.
It is
I keep, yeah,
It is.
yeah,
And you can't
it
really
is.
do it with around you talking and jabbering away. I mean, I could do my journalism in a very noisy newsroom. There was no
Yeah.
problem. But fiction writing, I need peace and quiet.
I think nonfiction can be written. I wrote it with no, a lot of noise and going up
Yeah,
and down. But I think fiction needs a whole different discipline and silence because there's just so much to
yeah.
imagine and to write, which is brilliant.
Because
And
kind of transporting yourself into another world,
yeah,
and you don't want to be distracted by the reality of the world you're living in because then you can't do both. It's just too much of a kind of mishmash. You have to be in the world which you have created to be
Yeah,
able to write those characters.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, a quick question before I let you go. Apart from reading and writing, what is it that Seema likes to really do? I remember when I interviewed Veer, he said you're the one who takes over and you like to cook, you're the better cook, and you're also very obstinate in a sense that you make sure that if your mind is stuck on something, it will be finished no matter what. Is that
That is,
you?
I have that tendency to say if I've started, I'm going to finish. What do I like to do? I mean, I do like to cook, but I don't like to cook every day. I like to cook, special meals. I don't like doing the normal dal chawal kind of thing. It gets a bit boring. Like even if I make a dal, it has to be something special. It can't be like, normal. I
I'll
like
come.
going. I
I'll come for. I love a good dal.
Yeah, yeah, please do. Like yesterday, I was experimenting with making chips at home, which turned out quite nicely, which I managed to put on Instagram as well.
Oh,
So
really?
I like doing these kind of quirky things. I like making Thai food, and during the lockdown, I finally taught myself how to use an oven, which I had never done. The oven had been unused in the house for like 5 or 6 years, and I finally got down to using it during the lockdown. So I think the lockdown has actually taught me to be quite self-sufficient. I've learned how to blow dry my own hair and cook my own food and all of that.
The basics, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been great.
Yeah, no, I realized I couldn't blow dry my hair, so I just went and chopped it. But whatever it takes for each one of
Yeah.
us. And yeah, Seema, it's a pleasure always. It's lovely
Thank you.
speaking with you. It's
Great.
always lovely speaking with you. And I know what's next. You're writing another one, and you've
Yes,
given Asha Devi a break, so we'll
yes.
wait for the
So my spy novel.
for your spy novel. I would have actually put up your Madam Prime Minister, but I am sitting in quarantine and no access to any to do the outside world for another day or so, I think.
Not
And
worried.
but we will
If you
put it up again. But guys, please do get a copy. It's a wonderful read. I mean, it's honestly such a quick, spacey
thank,
read and totally enjoyable, Seema. And we'll
thank,
wait for the day when there's an encore to that as well. Until then, the spy novel is coming up, and hopefully the OTT shows. And we will
I
meet
hope.
before that, inshallah,
Yeah,
as they say
that's
here. Thanks for joining.
great fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seema. Bye.
Goodbye.